Hello folks, welcome to Node 6.1. This week we're starting a new topic, and that is history. We'll cover it in Node 6.1 and 6.2. So this week, and then we'll have spring break next week. Yay, right? And then the week after that we'll finish up with Node 6.2, and then we'll move on to the next node, which will be a little different than our previous nodes. But I'll talk a little bit more about that in Node 6.2. And we'll do some preparation for that maybe this week and in the week after spring break. But for this week, we're beginning to talk about history. You've got some reading. We'll be talking about Ellis Island, the mural by Judy Taylor, The History of Labor in the State of Maine, and also Maya Lin's Vietnam Veterans Memorial. So we'll be talking about these monuments, memorials that we've constructed to commemorate some events in our past. So you have the reading for this week. Per usual, you have the free writing journal, the shared annotation spreadsheet, voice board, Google Plus conversations, and also a little exercise called Personalizing History, where I've asked you to look at or to find a memorial that you feel personally connected to somehow, and to tell the story of that memorial, as well as the story of your connection with that, why you feel that it relates to you in your life. And so that's really the work for this week, is the same per every week. But we're talking about history this week, and really one view of history in that we're looking at how history is constructed, how we represent our past and our memories, and how our sense of these things play out in our present and future. And these all begin with historical events. This week we're talking about, like I said, three specific ones. We have the first is immigration to the USA, the second, labor and laborers in Maine, and then also the Vietnam War, looking at these particular events, and also how the stories we tell in public about these things, how we commemorate these past events. For instance, we have Ellis Island, which itself stands as a memorial to all the immigrants who came through there, and their lives, and how that reflects upon our national identity. And then we have this mural by Judy Taylor, which is a representation of labor and laborers in Maine. And also we have the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. This is it under construction, but it tells a story about a public story commemorating these men or this event in our past. So we have the event that we tell public stories about, that we want to commemorate in some way. But within these things, to every public story, to every event, there are also tied personal stories. The individuals who were there and their offspring, and people otherwise influenced by the events and by the public stories. In terms of Ellis Island, we have the immigrants themselves, those who came through and were influenced by their time there, their offspring, just being influenced by coming through this place. And in terms of the labor in Maine, we have the laborers themselves and their future, their past, these individual stories that are all connected with these big events. And then we have the veterans themselves, those who fought in the Vietnam War, those who gave their lives, and things like that, who well, they had their own stories. And we'll be thinking about those things this week, about the interrelationship between the events themselves, between the stories we tell in public about them, the ways we commemorate these things, and also between among all of this and the personal stories connected to all of it, because it is all interconnected. So what history is. And now there's never really any one history. The history that we receive is just one version. There are many different stories we could tell about the past, and some of them are controversial, as we'll talk about this week in terms of Judy Taylor's mural and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. These controversial things, and the people wanting different stories to be told. And we'll talk about which stories are told and why they're told, and also about your personal connections with these things. So that's what's on the docket for this week, and for this whole node, we'll be talking about history. If you have any questions about anything, please do feel free to let me know. My inbox is always open.